Okay. Good afternoon and welcome to our Whitman Middle School Building Committee. Tuesday, November 19th. We are being filmed with WHCA TV. First, will please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, that's better than my little flag.
No, I still like your little flag.
Fred would be very proud of that.
Oh, very much. You take it home.
Okay, any public comments? Nobody's here. Meeting minute approval for 11/5.
Motion to approve the minutes of November 5th.
Second.
Brandon, second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay, OPM update, financial review.
Great.
That you, Shirley?
Sounds good. Thank you very much. So shifting to financial updates, first on our screen, and again, you have the package in front of you, but we're going through the project budget and cost summary. Again, we typically don't spend too much time unless there's any questions. We can move on, but essentially the backup is what will explain to the overall budget cost summary. But with that said, we're going to move to our budget adjustments. Again, with the budget adjustments, this is where we adjust any budgets and move contingency. As you can see, everything is gray at this moment, so that means we have not made any adjustments at this time. So,
No extra spending. Yeah.
which is great. Moving on to our committed costs. Again, there's no new committed costs for the new contracts, POs, change orders, or amendments at this time.
One thing to note here is we did approve the early package last time. We haven't got that contract finalized just yet. I think we might be getting that maybe this evening even, and so once we do get that, it'll start showing up. So that's been approved by this committee, but we just didn't show it up there just yet.
That's correct, yes, thank you. Moving to invoices, again, the standard monthly invoices for AI3 and CPL for the month of October for our services. For CPL, it's a total of $67,344, and collectively AI3's invoices come to $534,581.17. And again, I can pull this up if necessary, but we do have these available.
And we'll probably do it. Do we have the warrants tonight, or are we just looking at it from this perspective?
From this perspective, we'll wait until December to approve those.
Do we have discussion on any? I just have one on the invoice 996169. Just, it's the cover letter. The first bulleted item, work the design team and district on design development. I think there's a with missing there. Work with the design team in district.
Sure.
Okay?
Yep.
That was the only thing I was trying.
Any other questions? Okay, great. Should we do the vote for,
I think Joseph
we'll
will
wait
do
till
that.
December,
We'll
sorry.
wait 2 weeks from today, if that's okay.
Fair enough, okay, great. Again, cost flow, at this point, I'm larger right now. We continue to monitor, and this is where we have ebbs and flows with contingency. As you can see, we're still making great progress and still below. So, again, it's kind of better explained with the cash flow, which I will move on to. Oh, I am so sorry. I'm not sure, I must have missed. The graph was not included, so I apologize. But that.
But in general, we're trending below where we were originally anticipating as far as the cash flow. So I think we mentioned to this group before that we always project the full cash flows, assuming we're spending all contingencies and things like that. So in the end, we hope we haven't spent all the contingency. There's some dollars left, and what we're seeing right now is that's the way we're trending. That we're trending to be below the, not just on budget, but below the budget.
Sounds good.
That moves us to our overall timeline schedule. I'm just going to bring up to where we currently are. As you all know, we went through, which we'll discuss in a brief moment, is the pre-qualifications, and which is where we're hoping to review, and we did discuss this with the over committee, and we'll provide an overview of it briefly. And that will move us next to hopefully the bidding process, which is really exciting to come forth in the December timeframe.
And so just to kind of, couple of the major bullet points here is we've been working on the pre-qual, we're going to be talking about that in a little bit. We just finished the early package that is in process to get the switchgear and the generator ordered. The next big step here is the MSBA submission that the design team is currently working on, followed by getting the documents out to bid. As Shirley mentioned, that's the exciting part, is getting them out there on the street, getting the contractors to start looking at them, and before you know it, we'll be looking at apparent low bidders and getting a contractor on board, and looking forward to that, that groundbreaking and getting the project, truly started from a construction standpoint.
Sounds good.
So that ends my financial updates, which again, we can touch upon the early package, which Mike actually just briefly spoke about for the contract.
So we've been working with the district on that since we last met, where we've just about finalized that package to go out. Shirley had reached out to Tilton.
Yes.
Tilton, who was the apparent low bidder, so they know the package is coming. They should be getting their bonds together and getting all their parts and pieces ready so that they can turn around the executed contract very quickly. So we'll have that out to them the next day or so, and then we'll get it back from them. So that's a big milestone for us to get, and then once the contracts are executed, that's when they're going to start getting what we call shop drawings together. So the design team has told them what to provide. They have to give us their own version of that back to make sure that they understood what the design team asked for. And the design team reviews that and gives it a thumbs up, and then they actually order it. And then that's that 12-month process. From the day they order it, it takes about 12 months to actually get that in the production line, built and delivered out to the site.
It's funny how so many people know that term, switchgear. My son's he's a project manager, and he goes, oh yeah, good old switchgear. We always have to wait for those.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Great.
So it used to be a problem before COVID. It became a real, sticking point after COVID, and we're actually recommending the early package, just like we did here on another project that is about a year behind us, but they're following a very similar path to what we're doing. It just makes a lot of sense because the contract is just going to take a lot longer otherwise, because there's a lot that they can't do until they have power, right? Mm-hmm. You can do a certain amount on temporary power, off of generators and stuff like that, or off of smaller electrical supplies. But to really start up your HVAC equipment and things like that, you really need to have that full permanent switchgear in place.
Questions so far? Okay, go ahead.
Just kind of a follow-up from a question John Galvin had asked last week. Where is the district at in its ability to borrow on the financial audits? I guess Steve's not here, so probably.
Steve's not here, so the auditor, and I didn't want on camera, right? The auditor keeps asking for more questions.
Okay.
So we had 8 more on last Friday. That is the 35th revision since September.
Yeah.
So I'm anticipating another 8 hours worth of work for that. And then we're going to have a conversation with the auditor. We should have the audit by January,
Okay.
so that we can borrow into February, March, whenever we need to do that. So we just need the rating, but
Yeah.
we've probably spent in man hours, 2 months of putting together an audit. One person specifically just working on that. And I ran it by another business manager the other day, and they just kind of looked at me and said, why? The last one of the questions was, please pull the 23 employees that were hired in FY22 that are under the federal grant. They need their appointment letters. So, I mean, it's just
Yeah.
digging in, digger, and more. So, we're there, and this is getting frustrating for us too.
Okay.
Okay. So moving on to the pre-qualifications, contractors and subcontractors. Move on to this presentation right here. So we've been working alongside with the committee, with Brandon, Kathleen, Bob, and AI3 in the last couple of weeks. That said, we do have in front of you the pre-qualification list, and just to kind of explain the overall formatting, if you will. We have the overall total, which is the 100, and the minimum for this category points is 70 points for them to be pre-qualified. And then from there, we have 3 different sections, and within each one has the total points available with their allotted minimum points required in order for them to be qualified for the GC list, as well as just the mandatory bonds, DCAM certifications, and DCAM updates. That said, on the great news, all 5 GCs are pre-qualified from our review process. They meet the minimum 70 points, and we are excited as a team to be accepting this list of pre-qualified GCs.
If I can, just a little, so each of those gray bars, like Shirley mentioned, there's like a subtotal for number 1, number 2, number 3, you see across the top. So not only do they have to have a total cumulative of 70, but they have to have at least 25 in section 1, at least 15 in section 2, and at least 10 in section 3. In addition, the last section there, the mandatory, they all have to provide letters certifying that they can provide bonds. They all have to provide a DCAM certification statement and a DCAM update statement. I will let you know that oftentimes general contractors or contractors submit a statement, and we get them 2 or 3 months ago, and they may have been current at that point, but they have now since run out. And we've actually gone to the AG's office to talk to them about what do we do with that situation. They've actually told us if they've submitted a statement, or even if they forgot a statement altogether, we have the authority and the opportunity to reach out to them and say, if you do have a current statement that is current from DCAM, you can resend it or send us an update. Like, you submitted this on September 15th, and on October 1st it ran out. So now you need to submit me the new one, because they don't get that new one until basically that October 1st date. So we did have a couple of times where a bonding letter was outdated, or a DCAM cert or a DCAM update statement was either missed or outdated, and we did reach out to those parties to get those documents updated. So it's just a little tweak of what we had to do, some of the behind the scenes stuff there. But in general, other than that, it's reviewing each of these based off of what they submitted, and then doing a whole lot of phone calls on reference checks and things of that nature. So basically, section 2, you have project references, credit checks, and then public record information. Though that section there probably takes, what, 80% of the effort?
A good chunk of the time.
Yeah, so we actually sent out an email questionnaire, hoping that people would respond to emails maybe better than returning a phone call, and we got a big chunk of it from that, right? And
Yes, yep.
Then there was a lot of legwork from the AI3 team, as well as Shirley and Harani on our side. So I'll say I appreciate all the effort that they did, because they certainly spent a lot of time to make sure that we have a complete list here.
Okay. All right, one of the explanations for people who are listening, could you explain what DCAM is? I know they know what bond, usually explain them for bond.
Sure, so DCAM is, I always forget what the second M is. It used to be Division of Capital Asset Management. I think it's Division of Capital Asset Management and Maintenance now. And it's basically a state agency. So it's a state agency that tracks and certifies contractors. So what happens is, at the midpoint of our job, we're gonna have to score all of the contractors on our job. And so when I say all, it's the general contractor and all the filed subcontractors. Those are all the trades we're talking about here. And then at the end of the job, we rescore that, and that score goes into their record. And if people get too low of a score, like if you get one bad score, you kind of get your hand slapped. If you get multiple bad scores, you can actually be decertified or debarred from DCAM and not allowed to bid on public work. So it is an important process, and the certification is once a year, the company has to submit, and the state reviews it, and they come back and they say you're certified. Now, through the course of the rest of the year, they're doing different work, they might be getting a lawsuit or something like that. That's what the update statement is. So the update statement is what has happened since your last certification. So it's kind of a two-part thing, because the state isn't constantly redoing that certification. But that's absolutely a great question, and it's an important part of what they do
I think it's
here.
important for people to know that.
Absolutely, yes.
I just want, just point out, I don't know if you're going over this, but the red highlighted ones are ones that we ended up not pre-qualifying, if you're looking at this list for a number of different reasons. And then the letters go out tomorrow, correct? Is that the plan?
So the plan is, you know, we're saying these are, I'll say who we're recommending, and we're gonna ask for this group to take a vote on that tonight. To your point, the red ones are ones that we're saying that we've reviewed, and they're either below the 70 minimum of the total, or they might be below one of the three categories, or they might not have provided a mandatory, or it could even be multiple. But what we typically do in these meetings is we are certainly open to asking or talking about all of them, but we usually try and focus on the red ones, just to give you a heads up of these are the ones that we're not recommending, and everybody else we are recommending. I will let you know that oftentimes the people that aren't recommended are gonna ask why. And we've gone through and we've done, I'll say, an additional level of due diligence to make sure that we didn't mess something up, basically. I mean, we do a lot of process through that anyway, but.
Chair?
Yes, Joe.
Okay, so if I look at the general contractor pre-qualification, you have 5, right? So let's say the group says, yes, everybody, we recommend everybody, they're all now pre-qualified to do it. Does the scores they received on the pre-qualification, like, count in the post-qualification?
So so one of the things, so we're bidding this under chapter 149, which is design bid build. I often refer to it as lump sum, low bid. Now, people hear that and they're like, oh, you're getting the lowest bidder, they're not, you know, you're not gonna get a quality contractor. This step here is to make sure we get a quality contractor. So what the state has determined is that the minimum score is a 70. If anybody getting over 70, they're saying is a quality contractor. To your point, once they've gotten that 70, once we've approved them, they've all been deemed qualified. Now, if we're bidding about 6 weeks from now, 8 weeks from now, if something happens in that next 6 or 8 weeks that we know about, like say Mike Carroll Contracting, because I don't want to disparage anybody's name, Mike Carroll Contracting was qualified, and you found out that I had a major, accident on a job or a lawsuit against me or something like that, you always have the ability to reconsider my qualification. And if that new information would change this score so that I would then be below a 70, you have that ability. Now, that's not the rule, that's the exception to the rule. Typically, if you've qualified here, you're gonna remain qualified. But we always have that, there's always that checks and balances, you always have that ability to go back. But typically, once they're approved here, those are the bidders, and those are the only bidders that can actually bid as a general contractor. So again, Mike Carroll Contracting is not up there. If I decided I wanted to bid this job, I actually had a job once where a plumber was not pre-qualified and he tried to submit a package. And the poor guy, I think he was actually one of the guys in the field, he's like, my boss is gonna fire me, what did I do wrong? And I was like, it wasn't you, it was your boss didn't get pre-qualified 3 months ago. So that's what's happening here. This is the general contractors you see here. The rest of the list is filed subcontractors, filed subcontractor rates. In general, what the state does is they've decided these are the trades that they want to receive bids. Those bids are received 2 weeks before the general contractor bid. Those prices and those subcontractors are given to the general contractor. The general contractor doesn't have to take the low bidder, but they have to take the bidder at their value. So if Mike Carroll bid on miscellaneous metals and I'm at $1 million, and Shirley bid at Miss Metals and she's at $1.5 million, if you were the general contractor and you didn't like me, we've had a problem before, you said, it's just not worth going with Mike, I'm gonna go with Shirley, you can, but you've gotta carry it $1.5 million. Now, Brandon's gonna bid it, and he's gonna go with me, so he's gonna be $500,000 below you right off the start. So, again, typically, they always take the low bidder, but occasionally there's a conflict there or something. Sometimes if there's a very close number, and the second bidder is either an NBE or WBE, which is a minority-owned business, or a women-owned business, they might choose to select that to help get their percentages up. So there's always a little bit of give and play in that, but in general, the general contractor is gonna give us a total price. And if we looked at all the filed subs, it's usually about half.
Right.
So about half of it is the filed subs, and the other half is all the other parts that the general contractor is going to do direct.
So I just, so we're gonna send the letters out to tell these, after we vote,
Yes.
Yes.
tell these people that we're pre-qualified then.
Correct.
And we're also gonna notify the companies that did not qualify.
We're
They
gonna
have-
send a letter to everybody, whether they're
Correct.
qualified or not.
And they have the ability to like fight it, basically, is kind of what you said.
Yeah, they can appeal it, and they can say, the first step is usually, they call us or they email us and they say, why didn't I, and there was one, for example, I think, the package we got was blank.
Yes.
So, it's just like, you submitted it, and when we opened the package, there was nothing in it, so like, I just couldn't do any, like, there was, like,
Yeah,
so.
it was, we've double checked too, just
Yeah.
to be fair.
So that's probably an easy conversation. Your package was blank, we work, I don't even remember who it was, but if we worked with them before, I would usually say, look, we worked with you guys before, we know you're a good contractor, but you didn't submit, basically. So that's an easy one. Other ones, they might look at the scores and they might try to fight the scores, but if you go through the package is very prescriptive of exactly what you get points for. You get 3 points for this, and you get 5 points for that, and it's done that way on purpose, so it can't be done with emotion or with, hey, I like this guy, or I don't like this guy, or it really is very prescriptive. So I think we're in good standing from that perspective. We've reviewed that. What we actually did is we spent a little bit of extra time. 70 is the passing number. What we had talked about is anybody that's like 75 or below, we're gonna double check it. Again, not that we didn't do it right the first time, but just, we're gonna go through and really double check that, because if we mix something up on somebody that's a 72, or they're really a 68 or something like that, and if it's a 68, or they're really a 72. So it's really, that's the area that we focus on a lot, is making sure that anybody that's just above passing or just below passing is really being treated fairly.
Sorry, one more
Oh,
thing.
yeah.
It's just the elevator thing, I think we should point
Yep.
out. if you're gonna go
So
with
we
that,
can
yeah.
definitely go through the full
Yeah.
list, and we can give explanations for each category as far as why they're disqualified. Ultimately, we want to focus on the red, to Brendan's point, so we can go through that. One thing just to note, the first, and I apologize, I'm not sure why, but this category, the missed metals, just the tab separation got.
Like the little header, the
The little
black.
header got missed, but I do have the full if necessary. But that said, the first one that did got disqualified was EDM, and they were the one who actually didn't provide any information in that package, so that was the group, which is why we disqualified them. And again, we did confirm and went back just to confirm that they did not provide any details. It was completely clean.
And if I can, just as we go down the list, if they didn't provide one of the mandatory items, like if we asked them for DCAP certification and they didn't provide it or couldn't provide it, maybe they were certified 3 years ago, they're not now, then we don't really even score them because they didn't provide a mandatory requirement. So these folks here, you don't see that they scored, say, 69 or something like that. They didn't get scored because they didn't provide anything on that one. But just as we go down, you'll see some might be scored below 70, and that's why they're being recommended to be not pre-qualified. Some are actually disqualified because they didn't meet the minimum mandatory items.
Aside from that, I move on to the next category, which was metal windows. So JJ Kodorzi, they did not meet the minimum scoring requirements for the missing metals, and they didn't have any similar projects as well, which is why they had a low number, and that's why they were recommended to be disqualified.
So if you look at that, there are 62 as a total score. there are 25 on score 1, which actually does meet the minimum for section 1. On section 2, there are 17, and again, that meets the minimum on, 15 out of 30. And then on section 3, 20 out of 20. So that they had the minimum on each individual section, but they didn't have the minimum overall.
Then moving to, again, under metal windows, we had Cheviot Corporation, which again, you'll actually see them. They submitted for 2 different categories, but in this one in particular, they didn't meet the minimum for miscellaneous metals, and that's why they were.
Metal windows.
Oh, metal windows, I'm sorry. And because we actually reached out to several project references, and we didn't receive the minimum that we needed for this category.
So what we saw is that most of the metal window projects that they've done were smaller projects. And again, I've worked with Cheviot on a lot of projects doing different things. They're a good contractor, but a project of this size, it just, the resume that they presented didn't stand up to a project of this size and this scope, so.
And they actually had more in glass and glazing than they did for the metal windows category.
Yeah, just so everybody understands that, it's a little bit unusual if you're not in the industry. Why would you separate glass and glazing from windows? The easiest way I say it is glass and glazing is typically frameless items. So like if you go to the bathroom and there's a mirror in the bathroom, that's glass and glazing. If they're doing some infills of a side light or something like that, that can sometimes be glass and glazing. Windows are the window with the metal frame and everything. Sometimes it's storefront. Like this would be like a storefront where you get metal panel on the bottom and window, or wood panel on the bottom and windows. There's different categories there, but storefront, curtain wall, and metal windows all kind of group into one category. And that's a multi-million-dollar item. And then glass and glazing is another category, and it usually is under $100,000. So like, it's one of the smaller filed subcategories, but it is a filed subcategory.
Then moving to the next page, we have resilient flooring. We had mass flooring. So for mass flooring, they did not provide the submission for safety. With that said, because that is a requirement, they were disqualified because they were missing a category.
So the safety modifier is basically a way that the government kind of regulates safety. If you're a 1, that means your safety record is average of companies of similar type in the industry. So this is, sorry, which one is this? This is flooring. So if I had a safety rating of 1, that means my safety record puts me right in the middle. 50% of all floors are more safe than me, and 50% are less safe. So if it's over 1, that means you're less safe. If it's under 1, that means you're better. So that's the scoring. And these people didn't provide a number at all. They just said, you work safely.
Yes, that's correct. If I recall.
So, and just so everybody understands, that actually, it's a good indicator, but it actually does come into play when you do workers' comp, for example. When I pay a workers' comp premium, if I'm a contractor, and I pay, or again, if we're both, if she's got a 1.0 and I get a 1.5, 1.5 is really bad. But she's gonna pay a premium, if it's say $10 per thousand, she pays $10 per thousand because it's 1 times that. I'm gonna have to pay $15 per thousand into the workers' comp, so I actually have to pay a higher percentage because my team doesn't work as safely. So it's a good indicator, and it's not something that they shouldn't understand. I guess that's where I wanted it, like, when we ask for a workers' comp modifier, if they don't put a number in there, then it tells me that maybe they're not qualified for a project of this size.
Then under painting, we had Celtic LLC. They also did not meet the minimum requirements for, especially specific to the K-12 project. As you can see, they didn't score very high in the similar projects category, so that they were also recommended to be disqualified at this time.
And again, if you look at the individual sections, they didn't miss any one section, but it was the cumulative total of all of them, not hitting the 70.
Correct. And then to elevators, again, the last SBC meeting, we mentioned that we only had 1 bid, which at that point, we actually went out to rebid for the elevator specifically. like, actually received the same bid that we received previously, which is the one that said we don't have the 3 to really review at this time. With that, we're going to recommend, which is pretty standard for elevators, is to have them fall under the GCs for the elevator contractor.
Yeah, so for whatever reason, there's probably a lot of reasons with it, but the elevator contractors just have a history, especially over the last 4 or 5 years, that we just don't bid it that way. It almost seems like the state should think about taking them off the filed sub-bid list and just make it part of the general contractor, but I think the last 3 or 4 jobs I've done, I've had to do the same thing. So, like Shirley said, we asked for packages, we want to have at least 3 potentials. Like, we have 6 general contractors? That means we have 6 potential bidders on bid day, 5. It doesn't mean all of them are going to bid. If somebody wins a job, 2 weeks before ours, they might not bid ours, that type of thing. But we're hoping that we're going to get all 5 of them. Similarly with elevators, we don't want to go in with just one bidder. He'll bid, $10 million, right, because he knows he's the only bidder. So we only got one bidder in, or one pre-qualification, and we rejected it. We resubmitted it, we only got one again. What the state allows us to do, now that we've done it twice, is they allow us to say we're going to assign that to the general contractor. And then what will happen is, I said before that the filed sub is about 50% and the rest of it is about 50%. Well, now it's going to be 49, 51. There's a little more that's going to go to, and the general contractor can go out and contact any elevator company that they want and get that qualification.
Moving to fire protection, we're good. And then down HVAC, we had Veterans Development Corporation. They also did not meet the minimum, but they did not have the best reference checks as well, which was a big reason why they were disqualified. And
yeah, so section 2, they actually fell below the minimum as well as the overall. So they actually had kind of two parts that was there. I've worked with them once before. This is probably, again, a little bit bigger job than they would be suited for, so.
They did the town hall.
Yeah. I think that was probably a little smaller than what we're gonna do.
Yeah, it was just air conditioning for the
Yeah,
town hall.
yeah.
And same with electrical, American Electric Construction also fell below and again, did not meet the minimum requirement for this category as well. So they were recommended to be disqualified at this time.
And just so everybody knows, with COVID, prices have gone up pretty substantially. And so we have, when we look at similar projects, we don't want somebody who has done a $10 million construction job being qualified to bid a job that might be $100 million, right? Like, we want to have contractors, but at the same point, if I was running a project and I was a smaller contractor, I'm not going to have 10 schools I'm building and closing 3 of them every year, right? I might only close 1 every couple of years. So it's a little bit of a balancing act. So what we did in the pre-qualification is to make it a similar project. We gave them the opportunity to not only show dollar values, but also overall project size by square footage. So if you didn't meet the dollars, you could show us that, hey, this project was done 5 years ago. If we did it in today's dollars, it would probably meet the dollars, but it was done 5 years ago, so it doesn't. But we want to show that it was a 130,000 square foot building and yours is 140, so that shows that it's a little bit more of an apples to apples. So we did try to give everybody an opportunity with that, and you can see most of the reds. We had one that missed a mandatory requirement, we had one that just didn't give us anything. The rest of it, it's really that similar project experience. So they're probably reasonable contractors that can do smaller projects, but maybe not a project of this size or this scope.
Any questions as far as what our recommendations are for this list?
I think Julie and Troy, I don't know, I know you guys had other team members that were kind of running this for your side, but did you have any other follow-up, or did we kind of hit all the talking points already?
No, you hit all the talking points, very well said.
Agreed. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
So where does that bring us? As far as just tasks and timeline, we have today just going through the vote to approve for the pre-qualification list. From there, we'll notify the qualifications within the next couple of days or so. And then we're hoping to have the approval of the 100% CVs review with you guys on December 10th. And we'll be able to have that available for the bid process for the month of December 26th specifically, is our target date, with the whole overall bids being due back in February 2nd, 12th. So that's our overall timeline.
Just so everybody knows, we actually gave both the file subcontractors and the general contractors an extra week of bidding time, because we're giving the documents like December 26th, figuring with the holidays and stuff like that, we don't want to, again, lose somebody's, an opportunity for somebody to bid it. But we're trying to get that out there. The good thing about bidding this time of the year is by the time we bid it, we sign the contracts, they start those shop drawing processes, get some fencing and stuff out there. The ground's starting to thaw out, the winter is kind of over, and they can kind of hit the ground running. So I think the way that we've been able to time this, we're actually hitting this at a good time of the year to be good. So I think on the pre-qual list, we'd be looking to approve the list as submitted.
So, do I have a
Well,
motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the list. as
And
submitted.
George, second? Okay. All right, so Brandon made the motion, George seconded. Okay, so all in favor of the pre-qualification? Raise your hand. Okay, it's unanimous.
Thank you.
That's a big milestone. And thanks again to Shirley and the AI3 team and to our subcommittee as well.
And Connie. Great, thank you. Next item on the list is just an update for you guys on the 90% MSBA submission update. I wanted to say thank you to AI3 for all their efforts on making this pass. We just had one comment, I think overall, which is just a matter of just resubmitting a document that they already had actually. Aside from that, I think it was a pretty all around successful submission.
Yeah, so we submitted that to the MSBA. We actually received a response back, and they asked for a couple of little clarifications. So Julie's got that. They actually asked for a copy of the signed funding agreement, which we had sent last spring. So maybe it was just, again, the right person didn't have it. So nothing to concern anybody here about. We will be formally responding to that. Either, I don't know if we got it out today or if it's going out, like, it'll be this
Probably
week.
this week, yes. But did you have anything to bring up on that part, Julie or Troy?
I do not. It's pretty standard, especially at this point, that we would have a lot of those boxes checked, which is great confirmation from the MSBA that we are right where we want to be and moving it to 100%.
And that's a good segue.
Yeah, that is, just so everybody knows, like, when you look at, there's a checklist from the MSBA, and they go down the checklist, and they make sure every box is checked. So that's what Julie's referring to, when they go through and we don't have a lot of unchecked boxes, that means we've hit all the things that the MSBA think are important enough for them to validate, so that's good.
And then, okay.
Yep, so the next meeting date.
Yes.
So-
Yep.
I don't know if you have a suggestion, but I have received a couple of requests that we do a virtual meeting versus an in-person for that.
So I think the next meeting is really Julie and Troy's. I don't think that that's a problem, but maybe just let them,
Yeah.
yeah.
So what do you think, Troy, Julie, having it virtual? Or would you rather?
No problem on our end. We can certainly provide graphics and visuals virtually, and it should be pretty straightforward overall.
Yeah. How does everybody feel about that?
Sounds good.
Would you like rather do? I know with the holidays and everything, and I know, trying to make sure everybody can.
Same time?
Yeah, so it's still 4:30
Yep.
on the 10th. Is everybody okay with that? All right, great.
Troy, do you want to send out the meeting, the Teams meeting, or do you want me to do that? It's up to you guys.
I think that Mike and Cheryl, you guys typically send that out. Is that true?
So we usually get the agenda, yeah, the agenda together. I think Jennifer usually gives us the.
So I'll send it out, it's cleaner that way.
Yeah.
That way then I'll put it together.
Okay.
And Troy, if you're presenting, I'll make you an owner, and Julie, you know, a meeting coordinator, so whatever it's called.
Fantastic. Excellent. Thank you.
Sounds good, thank you.
So that next meeting is really getting that MSBA submission, and that package is actually really what we're gonna be bidding on as well. So we're gonna be working towards getting advertisements in the central register and advertisement in the newspaper and getting it out there, just so everybody knows. That again is a state requirement that we have to do those advertisements. And it's important for like, the site work, for example, is not a filed subbidder, it's not the general contractor. So if I was a site contractor, I might see that in the newspaper, I might see it in the central register, and I'm gonna start looking at it. But everybody that we pre-qualified is gonna get a letter that they're pre-qualified, and then what we actually typically do is, when the documents are going out, we'll send an email out to everybody on that list the day before, saying the documents will be available to the 26th, and we'll send out a couple of days before, saying on the 26th, the documents will be available through Project.gov for them, so. It really, almost don't need the advertisement for those people because they're all pre-qualified, and we're gonna let them know directly anyway.
It's actually within the letter itself.
Any other questions for today?
Motion to adjourn?
Second? Okay, all in favor? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, folks.
everybody.
Thank you.